So, well, I feel like I'm stepping up in the karaoke after the original performer was on, so I'm going to try to follow the footsteps here. I will show you a little bit of the software here, because since the morning, even Ansley and John Rayner and Vasco were talking about the closed loop medication. We have several closed loops. We're going to focus on one to try to keep this somehow contained, which is the medication one. I think it's having so many pharmacists in the room, I think it makes sense. I would like to start a little bit by telling a little bit of the journey that also got us here as an IT supplier, becoming such a partner, so much embedded in the daily activity of an hospital, because this is also what happens. So as a company, what we are is we are a company that provides mobility solutions. It's sometimes difficult to actually say what we are in 10 words, but we develop mobility solutions based on barcoding for the patient bedside. So where we want to be is at the patient bedside. We are EHR, or hospital information system agnostic. We live with interoperability. If such thing doesn't exist, our system is completely useless. Okay, because what we do is we receive information from main systems, we process that information by scanning, by confirming, and we send it back. We don't own information, because, as it was said before, if the data repository is one, we are not that one. What we are is we are the mobility layer, the user interface on a mobile way that makes barcoding, confirmation, closed loop easy and portable and fast. Okay? So, we were not always what we are today. We are a 20-year-old company. We started by doing ISO quality systems back in 1998. By 2005, we started working in logistics. The first software we developed, and consider now we are a software company, but the first software we developed was '07, because we were doing logistics systems for hospitals, and the mobility systems that were around were just not keeping up to what we wanted. We wanted to do something more. We wanted to do, real-time stock analysis at the ward. We wanted to know how much one patient costs me, because we were being asked these kind of challenges for hospitals. Hospitals wanted to know this. We said, how do we do this? We started developing in '07. And at some point, we also started to think we need to go to the clinical side. There's also a gap, because in the beginning was, I want to know which medications my patients are receiving, and we thought, oh, we could do it with a barcode. But we need to add something extra. So we started to think about the patient safety. And in one very specific day, which was the 17th of July in '09, in Lisbon, there was a quite unfortunate day, because 6 patients checked in one of the largest hospitals for a surgery, eye surgery, and there was a mistake on anesthesia that was injected, and they got blind on that day. So this was obviously an unfortunate event, but it somehow triggered what we wanted to do after as a company, because we were already facing the challenges. We were thinking, do we really know how to do this? Because keep in mind, at BIQ, we don't have any clinician staff. We're only engineers, industrial and IT mostly. Okay, but we don't have pharmacists working with us, or doctors, or nurses, or any clinical staff. We rely on the knowledge of our customers. And this is how we do, because being so much inside the hospitals, we're driven by the challenges that are posed to us, and it will be the customer ultimately validating what we do. So, but in that, after that day, we sat down in our meeting room, trying to draft a workflow for a closed loop on medication, with a barcode scan at the bedside. This is what we wanted to do. It was 2 hours. It's incredibly fast. Really, really easy. And then we pitched this to some of our customers. And one hospital, one group, but one hospital at the time, took us for it, okay, and decided, let's do a proof of concept. Okay, so we spent 6 months developing what we would then be the PharmaTrack prototype, to have a proof of concept with the 5 rights, the barcode scanning at the bedside. This hospital was Cascais in 2009, and we installed it in 2010 in one department after 6 months. Before we managed to roll it out, it took 2 years. because it was not that simple. It was really, really complicated. Because administering one type of drug with one type of prescription with one type of patient is pretty simple. But it's the devil is in the details. And then you have IVs, and then you have emergency, and then you have changes on prescription, and then the patient brings medication from home, and then. So the challenges became, but because we were involved and we were working with an hospital, they were also working with us, giving us weekly reports on what needed to be changed. We were doing weekly releases on the system, and we managed to roll it out to the rest of the hospital, I would say around 2011 and 12. Also, it marked the year that we went international. Obviously, we were a Portuguese company, we still are, but the market was becoming small for the type of niche product that we offer. We're a small market. And then we changed for new mobile platforms. I'll go to back in a bit, and created what we call today the map. Okay. Today, we are present in some countries with several systems back and forth. And here in UK, we're working with JAC, but the idea is that obviously we want to increase and become even more specialized in what we do. For you to have an idea about the technology that was installed in 2010, this was the first device that was installed in Cascais when we started. And you look at it and you think, well, not really great. You know, it has a capacitive screen where you're punching on the screen, trying to get a OK from that letter. Pretty heavy, was sturdy, was not really fit for pocket, and it was not really providing you with a lot of information as a nurse. So you couldn't see the full therapy patient plan of the patient. You couldn't even see how many medications you should administer when you were actually administering it. You just had a scan to confirm, is this right or wrong? And then it would fit in. So it was doing its job, but with the limitations of the technology back then. When we moved to a system of Android, then we moved to something like this. We have a bigger screen, and we have the level of response that you have in your smartphone these days. Okay, where you can see complex information in a 5-inch screen and actually act upon it. Okay, and so we didn't stay only on the medication side. Then we think, okay, with a larger screen, if I have actual data that I can put on a mobile platform, I can actually go beyond medication to the other closed loops. What I really want is whatever needs a positive match before being given to a patient, I should be able to check it. I should be able to confirm, yes, I'm giving the right blood unit, or even meal. Or if we're talking about the milk track, and you have a premature baby, the mother's away, am I actually giving the right thing? Am I not really making a mix-up? Okay, and as Vasco mentioned, we now name it CareTrack, nursing tools, all embedding this also with the nursing records that you need to do at the bedside if they can be done on a digital or mobile platform. This means that if I can actually do this in a fast way, from a nursing standpoint, I really don't need a computer at the bedside. I can have the computer elsewhere. I'm not making the system totally independent of computers. You'll need them, but you don't need them when you're actually working with the patient most times. Okay, you still have a computer on wheels, but it can be on the aisle. And you don't need to take notes here and right there on the computer, because you can simply work with this one hand and holding something on the other hand that you can scan. Okay, and this was the point. The question, why don't we use tablets? Because I can have a larger screen. Because I don't want to. Because a tablet I cannot fit in my pocket. I need 2 hands to operate. The barcode scanner is a mess because it's a photo camera. And what we want is a confirmation system mostly. We want something that provides me information, I act upon that information, and okay, validate. Send it back to the mainframe. This is what we want. So I will take the next minutes to show you. Let's see if I can. So this is the actual screen of my device. Okay, so the only reason why it has a cable is for that. Obviously it works Wi-Fi. This is a healthcare type of system. Not only we are hospital information system agnostic, we also are device agnostic. We don't produce this. This is for us a computer like your laptop can be Dell, HP, or Toshiba. Doesn't really matter. As long as it has a proper barcode scanner and obviously some features, but it's It's nothing very complicated. For you to have an idea, this device today costs less than half of the original device I showed you there. Okay, so this is how technology is driven. So it's somehow funny. So obviously what we do is we rely a lot on barcoding. Okay, so we rely on barcoding on our patients when it comes to a wristband with a barcode. It's important, or it's relevant that's on the patient, because if it's on a file, if it's something I can just type in, I'm already compromising safety with this. I'm already compromising security at some point. And also, it has an authentication mechanism. So, for example, normally we have a simple way of, I scan my own badge, I enter the system. What you see there on the system is not so much a patient-centric view. This is our demo version. So you have the several modules, and once you enter the modules, you know in your department what patients need to do. We can also have this on a patient-centric view, that I can see what needs to be done on my patient at all times. I will enter PharmaTrack. So what I have here, and this was a challenge from the day one, considering I have a 5-inch screen, and normally nurses and everyone else is used to see a full therapy plan on a 20-inch screen, what is relevant data to have on a small screen so that I don't clutter everything with a lot of screens and scroll back and forth and all this. So first of all, you see that on the top you have not only your name as a user, but the ward that you're assigned to. You can be assigned to more than one ward in an hospital as a profile. Okay, normally we'll log you in the last logout, but you can also change it to another ward if you're actually assigned to another ward. As simple as that. Then what we did was, we look at the hour of the server. So if not, right now it's 3:30, I'm showing you in Medicine 1 which patients have something prescribed for 3 o'clock. Okay? And I'm only showing this patient, so I don't really care of showing you 30 patients if in 25 of them I don't need to do nothing right now. So what we do is we show you relevant patients, considering that we're showing you the patients on top that have something prescribed for them specifically for 3 o'clock, but we also show you the ones that have conditional drugs, the PRNs. They need to show up because I need to be able to administer that. That means if I change the hour to a different hour of the day, I can see other patients. The next question is, can I really see or administer the medication from any other hour of the day? Then it becomes a clinical decision. How much do you allow to be done considering the hour that you are? Should I be able to administer -2 + 2 hours and that's it? -1 + 1? And what is my admissible range? Because one of the things we'll do is, once you start scanning to confirm administration, the hour of administration becomes the hour of the scan. And that you cannot change. It becomes also KPI. How far away am I from the actual prescription hour and the actual administration hour? And this is something that you can drive to reduce. But what do I admit? And this is something that can be programmed. So if I change to 5 o'clock, I have other patients at 5 o'clock, okay, with a different hour of the day. And then what you need to really do is go to your patient, scan the patient wristband. This is how the process starts. So I'm choosing a patient, for example. Nowadays, we work primarily 100% online. Depending on the cases that you have a lack of Wi-Fi coverage in some areas, you can have an offline mode that pretty much locks the patient to avoid double administration. But I would say if you're going for a system like this, you should have a pretty solid Wi-Fi installed in your hospital. So scanning the patient wristband gives me at 5 o'clock what do I have prescribed for this patient. So I have the list of drugs, I have the IVs, I have the normal or pills, and I have the PRNs with the condition for administration in red. Okay, this is all configurable. For example, we're now working with Cornwall. I see Paul over there, where we are, by suggestion on the PRNs, we're adding a line on the bottom that says last administration at, because considering that there is no specific time of administration, it is, you know, it's good information for the nurse to know when it was last given. Because if it's a painkiller, it's important for me to know, was it like 1 hour ago or 4 hours ago? Because my decision can change according to that. So we're also adding this information. And then what you need is to scan a barcode of a drug. It can be, at this point, the system is designed for non-unit dose or unit dose, doesn't matter, as long as I have a barcode on a box or a drug that I can scan and that it can actually confirm what I'm scanning. For us, it's fine. Okay. So when I scan a barcode, I have the dosage of what I just scanned, what was prescribed, the route of administration, batch and expiry date depending on the information on the barcode. Okay, if we're thinking of FMD, it's going to be talked about where the JIT-in will already have this information. It will provide the information on screen. If we're talking about the linear code, which is pretty much what you have today in most boxes, then that will be a blank. I cannot confirm the administration, so that means I will confirm the administration, but without batch and expiry date information. And when I press on validate, what I have is a green check mark saying done. This is not in the system yet. A proper bedside closed loop system needs a two-tier validation level. This is the one where you confirm you're going to give the right drug. You didn't give it yet. And there's the one in the end where you send, where you actually finish the process, and then you're actually sending it to the system. Okay? Because within this process, the patient may spit out the drug, or you may drop it on the floor, or something that's happened so that you need to cancel before you administer, before you actually send this information back. So there's the beginning process and the end process that you do on mobile. And obviously, what we're trying to do here, and this has been widely spoke about the whole day, is to avoid medication errors. Okay, so the real key factor is not just to complete this, is to pick up anything that's wrong. For example, scanning a wrong drug should deliver you a hard stop. Okay, it should say this is a medication that's not prescribed for this patient, and it's a hard stop, you cannot move on. Okay, the same thing goes if I try to administer the same drug I just did, where I already have 150 out of, and it should give me an overdosage warning. Okay, so this has already been administered or confirmed. If you're trying to do it again, you shouldn't. Hard stop. So the whole point of this is to pretty much assure the 5 rights that we've been speaking about, I don't know, since I remember working for healthcare. I think more than 10 years ago, we were talking about the closed loop and the 5 rights. I think closed loop is a more recent way of putting it, but the 5 rights and the bedside scanning, or the BPOC, is something that's coming from a long way. But it's actually an easy way to achieving it that we're trying to reach here. The PRNs, simply, what happens is when we scan a PRN, we just warn you, attention, this has a condition attached to the drug, but once you confirm it, it's pretty much as is. So you can simply administer as well. And the IVs, what we do with the IVs, give me a second, okay, is you have an IV. What happens is, if we're talking about IVs, and this is a very simplistic way, in other systems we can have this more detail, including flow of administration, time, etc. But what we do is we will create an ongoing treatment that you can always have a dashboard in your mobile that shows you which patients are undergoing a current treatment that I need to finish, or even add a second IV bag after 15 minutes or 1 hour, for example. Okay, so it pretty much creates me something like an ongoing medication that will send me back. Upon finishing the system, and just doing a little bit detour because Vasco mentioned the nursing tools, we also have a set of nursing records that can be created as another standalone module of our own systems, or it can be connected with its specific administration. For example, if I want to check vital signs before, or I'm administering a certain drug, but because it requires. So it's something that can also be here. Okay, so upon sending this, we will have to justify the non-administrations. The real goal is to make the nurse user independent of the computer for this process. What we really don't want, and this is what we try from the beginning, is I can do some things here and I have to finish there, because then it somehow defeats the purpose of mobility, defeats the purpose of independence from the computer on a specific process. Okay, so you will justify by long pressing the system, and what we get is the list of justifications from your own system. We don't even own this. Okay, we don't keep it, and I will stress this as much as I can. what we had, every bit of information that you see here was produced elsewhere. Okay, the prescription, the patient, the user being connected to a specific word. Everything that you see here was produced elsewhere. What we're doing is we're picking up from different sources, we're processing that and sending it back. So justifications, the times, etc. What we're doing is, as was said, it's interoperability. And we, as a IT supplier, rely on that. Okay, so one of the main challenges that we brought up to the table, and we're very proud of what Cascais or the Lusíadas group has achieved, because we were sitting on those meetings on a weekly basis. We were one of the IT suppliers that were trying to solve problems in our area of expertise. So we were being presented challenges. We need to solve this. Can you do it through technology? And everything that you see here started in 2010, and it has, I would say, 8 years of evolution. It has 8 years of a lot of input from a lot of hospitals, and that we're trying to bring it in a way that's usable for nurses and other staff, that actually delivers what's the purpose of. I'm going to say no stock. And when we send it, we have, this is the last bit, confirm, where we will confirm what we did, and we get an acknowledged response from the server. So this is where the administration process ends for us. Okay? This acknowledged means that the EHR received the information I sent. Okay? And when I mean interoperable, we're not shutting down your own system. So the fact that we have mobility here, it doesn't mean that you cannot manually administer something in your own system. But interoperable works both ways, because for us that information is vital. Because if you do an administration somewhere, we also need to pick it to avoid an overdosage on this side. Okay, so, and this is what we're doing. Every time we send something there, it must be available real time so that nobody else can actually input something there and then overdosages on that side. So, although we're talking about two different systems, the information is shared real time, and it has to feed, it has to give proper information to the user, as I think John Rain was saying, to make it easy for them to do the right thing and really hard for them to do the wrong thing. Okay, so this is ultimately what we want as well. And that's in terms of system, and without going too much, that's pretty much it. I just imported this slide from Cascais' team. This is information that they sent us, which is the number of internal notification platforms. At this time, our system was already installed in the previous platform, and these are the number of adverse drug events that were reported in an hospital. When we changed the platform, because obviously the platform gives you a lot more information, easier to use, even speed of use, we had an impact, at least we managed to get an impact on the number of ADEs reported. And right now, I would say in the last 10 months that were analyzed, there were only 6 ADE reported, all of them notified when there was no CLMA system up. So that means the reports were normally made when there was no system available and things were done manually because the system was down. Either through maintenance, either for the system. So whenever we have a system up, it's very difficult to actually get a drug event. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Okay, it doesn't mean it's not possible, but obviously what we're doing is trying to dramatically reduce the probability of mistake. And we saw later today 3-4% of number of alerts that are issued per administration. Okay, numbers are very, very in line with what we're measuring in our, well, with Lusíadas and other, is around the 4% mark. So that means that for every 100 administrations, I have 4 of them that issue some level of alert. Most of them wrong drug or overdoses, but those are pretty much in line with the information we saw here today. Okay, so we're obviously the system also monitors that. And one of the things, and just to finish my presentation, one of the things that we really wanted to do when we started developing this was, and probably, and I think this is a challenge for the GDEs, what is digital maturity? And then MRAM showed up saying, okay, we have a system for digital maturity. It's a way of measure. And we also thought the same. So what makes a good system? What makes a good mobile system? Who can actually validate that what I'm doing is actually good? So like hospitals need to follow some sort of a standard that's universally recognized, so do we. And what we did was, okay, in lack of better knowledge, let's align our system with the good practices that are defined elsewhere, because if we do so, at least someone is saying your system complies with us. So this is what we did with GS1. And all our system is GS1 compliant. We recognize the JITINs. We can even have the algorithm to create new JITINs in your own hospital if that's the case. And obviously with the HIMSS analytics stage 6 and 7, because the challenges that were being put to the hospitals pretty much were being put to us. So what happened was, what we needed to do is we need to solve those problems by changing our own applications into complying with this kind of guideline. So this is what we did. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'll just leave with it, which a part of our development team. Sadly, they never show up to these events, but they are the ones doing all the work in behind. So here they are a little bit present for you. Thank you.